Good evening. It's Monday, July 24th, 2023. Welcome to episode 29 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. Well, guys, it's just me tonight. Rebecca was going to come on this week with me, but she's visiting with our grandchild who's over tonight, and it's going to be just myself. And quite honestly, I wasn't even sure if I was going to do a live stream this week. And if I did, I wasn't exactly sure what it was that I was going to talk about. But it occurred to me today when I was out running that I was trying to figure out something that was kind of an issue for us this year. And it's how to navigate through the intricacies of leaving home while having nobody to farm sit. And obviously, this is something that most homeowners, and to a greater extent, I think homesteaders in general, have to deal with occasionally because of the added complexity of livestock. And generally, homesteaders have big gardens and things like that that need to be looked after. So, it's not really an issue, quite honestly, if you never leave your house. But if you're somebody who wants to go somewhere for a weekend or more, from time to time, what do you do? Who do you rely upon? And we've been doing this for, I guess, now 23 years here on this property. And over the years, we've kind of developed some solutions for what we do here. And I don't certainly profess to have it all figured out, but I do have some solutions of my own. And if you have some solutions as to what you do on your homestead, definitely put that in the comments. Also, this broadcast will be replayed on podcast format, so you can catch it on Audible, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So what's caused me to think about this has been a disruption to our normally scheduled programming. And what I mean by that is there's a conflict between having our normal farm sitters who usually look after the place, are planning on being out of town the same weekend that we're to be out of town. So I wanted to kick around some ideas as potential solutions. Just as a heads up, I'm going to be spending probably a lot less time on YouTube in the next 6 weeks. And I'll be doing a lot more training because I'm looking to go back and kind of avenge a defeat that I had last year at a race up in Oregon. It's called Pine to Palm 100 Mile. And last year I entered that. I was in pretty good shape. I was looking forward to completing that race, but I entered with an injury, and it caused me to leave the race prior to completing it. I had to drop out at mile 80. My body was just not having it any longer. And it's one of those things, as a person who puts a lot of effort into something, you want to succeed at it. And it's when you fail, it's kind of one of those things that eats at you. So I definitely want to go back and try to make this right in this particular race. And quite honestly, I don't know if this is the year. I don't know if I'll be able to be successful this year, because I just kind of came to that realization last week. It was just last week I kind of went, maybe I'll start training for this. I needed to say that about 2 to 3 months ago. So I'm definitely not in the shape that I need to be in to necessarily complete this race. But I so enjoyed myself last year that I'm going to give it a go. And what that looks like for me in the next 6 weeks is I'm going to be upping my mileage, my volume, and my intensity, and probably putting somewhere in the neighborhood of what I need to be putting in, which is about 60 to 70 miles a week, just as a base mileage. And then probably having at least somewhere thrown in there an 80 to 90 mile week. So that takes a tremendous amount of my time away from what I'll be doing here on the homestead and elsewhere. So I will be trying to put out as much of the regularly scheduled content that I've been putting out. So I don't think that there will be any disruption toward that. But that's kind of what's on tap for me. But while I was out this morning, I was thinking kind of deeply about that because we typically rely on our daughter and son-in-law who live inside of 3 miles where we are to watch after our place, and vice versa. We'll watch after their place when they're gone. And it's just nice having that sort of a relationship. But when that falls through, what do you do? Do you leave somebody behind? Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys do? Do you ask a neighbor? Leaving somebody behind in this case doesn't necessarily work very well for me because I'm going to be relying on Rebecca to be there as my crew, not only to assist me in and out of particular aid stations along the way, but it's also very nice when you're in a race like that to see a loved one, somebody who can lift your spirits if you're feeling not so hot. And there's usually a time or two in a race like that where you're not feeling your best. So it's always nice. I liked her to go on these types of things with us. And yeah, that's certainly an option. She could stay home, and we've had to make that decision for other types of things before. But in this instance, I really would like her to be there. What's another option? Do you, what would you guys do? Would you ask a neighbor? I don't know. I guess it depends on the relationship that you have with your neighbor, but I know that in most cases, no matter who you ask to watch after your place, it's not going to be watched as well as you could watch it, nor is it going to be watched to the same level that you would watch it yourself. So I don't particularly like to burden people. I don't necessarily want to ask somebody as a neighbor to, hey, come down and feed my animals. I've got all this commitment here. We want to leave and go do fun things. Come down and work on my farm. I don't have that sort of relationship with my neighbors. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a great relationship to have, but I don't have that. And for me, that's not necessarily an option. One of the things that I've tried to do over the years with regard to this is just scaling things appropriately. And what I mean by that is I think that it's an easy place to get to as a homesteader, particularly somebody who's new as a homesteader. You get the property, you want all the animals, you want to do all the things, you want goats, you want chickens, you want cows, you want, make butter, you want to do all this cool stuff, right? That you've seen people do and that you've watched on Little House on the Prairie. But in reality, are you going to be able to sustain that? And so I think it's important to scale things appropriately when it comes to homesteading. And that's one thing that I've always kind of tried to do here, is to not overextend myself, not get too far ahead of myself as it relates to that. Because I did see growing up, I saw that my dad, that's all he did. That's all he did on that property was work nonstop, but he never got a chance to go anywhere and to do really things that were fun. And for him, that was a choice. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't really want to do those other things. And I get that. But I have other interests, and there's things that I would like to do outside of homesteading. So I've always tried to scale things in a way that allowed me to do that. So I think it's really important to just keep that into perspective. I've tried to, on this property, as a solution, is just to try to manage with what the property will sustain, generally speaking. And that's one of the reasons why we've always stuck to ruminants. That's one of the reasons why we've always stuck to cattle, not only because that's what I grew up with and have had all my entire life, but it's just because that to me was the easiest solution. I didn't have to deal with predation. So I could put the cows out in the field and they could just do cow things. They could graze, they could eat grass as ruminants are supposed to do. And I really didn't have to feed them too much because the property was able to, for the most part, meet their needs. And when we did decide to leave this property, we could make sure that they had maybe some supplementary hay or something like that. We put a big bale of, straw or rice straw or alfalfa out in the field. And the water troughs were on a float. And so we could basically leave this property. We weren't so necessarily tied to it. And I guess on around 2020, things kind of changed for us again. And we decided to bring in more stuff. We decided to get a little bit more involved in raising more of our own food from that point forward again. And along with that comes additional concerns, responsibilities, and burdens that tie you to your property. So what do we have currently? We have cows, only 2 of them. We've got sheep, only 4 of them. We've got chickens. We've got 22 total, 20 hens and 2 cockerels. And we've got 2 pigs right now. So that's really what ties us to this property, along with the garden that we are growing and all those other things. So the chickens themselves, I would say we're able to supply them water and food. And the only other issue for us would be egg collection. We collect eggs every day, as I'm sure most people who raise chickens do. They collect their eggs every day. And I do that, generally speaking, obviously because of freshness, but I just don't want them being out there in the heat. And the chickens will also develop a taste for, hey, that's pretty good stuff in there. And I really don't like chickens pecking eggs, because if I have chickens that are pecking eggs, they don't need to be on my property. It kind of defeats the purpose of having egg-laying chickens. So egg collection is an issue. And that's one of the things that I may be working toward in the near future, just to get more roll-away egg systems, that when the chickens lay eggs, it'll just naturally migrate into that space, and it'll be protected from not only chickens pecking them, but it'll be protect them from any, predators or anything like that that might feel like they want to consume the eggs. The pigs that we have they have a feeder that can probably supply them somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 days, but we're not planning on leaving the property unattended for more than maybe 2 nights at most at this point, possibly 3. But in this type of a weather environment where we're having pretty significant heat, I wouldn't feel comfortable extending it beyond that. But and the sheep are the other issue that we would need to contend with. Now, I've got the sheep set up in a sheep tractor, and along with that sheep tractor that travels in tandem with it is a watering trailer. And that watering trailer has a 60-gallon water container on it. It's an old olive barrel, and I converted this old tent trailer into just a watering trailer so that I can chase it up and down the field as the sheep tractor is moved. And so water wouldn't be an issue for them. The only thing that they would need is some food. Now, those sheep haven't been fed since I've brought them onto the property. They've existed essentially off of just the pasture itself. And that's, again, how I want to raise these animals, is to learn how to forage for themselves. And to this point, they're doing pretty well at adapting to that. I may have to feed them. Let's say if we were to leave for 2 nights, I could throw them 2 bales of hay, and they're going to be protected from predation. They're in a very secure enclosure. Now, if I had more secure fences and LGDs and stuff like that, they could be out on pasture doing what the cows are doing. But it's a real issue around these parts with coyotes, and sheep don't do well unless they're protected in a way. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm running them in that tractor. One of the other issues that we're dealing with is just our garden. And I'm sure that most people who are homesteading and have a garden, you've probably in some ways set up some systems of your own to deal with this. And one of the things that I decided to do when I put in raised beds is I made sure that those raised beds were attached to a watering system that I can program to come on at whatever interval I want and for whatever duration. And it's on a drip system. So those garden beds are watered every day. At this point, I've got them set for an hour and 20 minutes a day. And that's keeping those beds just about right, even in all the heat that we've had. So I'm a big fan and proponent of trying to automate as much as you possibly can so that it does provide you, that level of freedom. And I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat who would sound off as far as what it is that you're doing on your property that has worked for you or things that you're considering doing, because I'm always interested in learning from somebody else who may have done something in a way that I had not yet considered. So certainly if you have any input in that, I'd be glad to hear it. Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you tonight. See, we got a few people in the live, and yeah, it's good to see you, man. So that's something I've been kind of wrestling with, I guess, a little bit, and yeah, I think it's really, really important. One of the things that I want to kind of just have people take away from what I just said there for the last 15 minutes was, I think that redundancies to your system are super, super important. What happens when your usual arrangement falls through? And this doesn't have to be necessarily on the farm sitting thing. This could be on anything. I think redundancies are just incredibly important. But as respect to something's happening to the people that you ordinarily would have watch your place, what do? Do you stay home? Do you have to leave somebody behind? Yeah, I guess those are certainly options. But, I also think that it's smart to at least considering from somebody who is maybe entering into homesteading or is thinking of adding more things, consider setting your infrastructure up in a way that gives you a little bit more freedom, because we talk a lot about freedom in this community, and some of the other communities out there that exist talk a lot about freedom, right? But I think a big part of freedom is, at least to me, is being able to do the things that I want to do on my terms. And, I think it's important to be on our homesteads. We all love our homesteads. It's our home. I think it's important to be here, but it should be by our choosing, not because of an obligation. And, you shouldn't set things up on your property, at least in my opinion. I haven't done this, so that it limits me from pursuing other interests that I might have in my life, because it's very easy, as I said earlier, to get, ooh, I want that. I want that. I want turkeys. I want chickens. I want this. I want that. And if you can manage all of that and it's not a problem for you moving forward, 100% get it all. Absolutely. But also be thinking about how can you streamline things to make it easier on yourself so that there's less movement required to take care of those animals. And then think about if you actually wanted to go somewhere. Maybe there was a festival you wanted to go to. Maybe you wanted to go out some evening and go to a concert somewhere far away and spend the night. Could you do that? And that's kind of the situation that, I think us as homesteaders, we wind up finding ourselves in, where it's like not always the easiest to step back and do that. So I think that's kind of really what I wanted to say on that. And if you guys have any input on that, I'd certainly love to hear it. Let's see here. I got some folks in the chat. Hey, how you doing, Michelle? Good to see you tonight. That's awesome. I got a chance to meet Michelle up in Cascade Locks. And Michelle's somebody who we've chatted before online, and I got a chance to run into her at Cascade Locks at PCT Days. So it was nice to see her, and good to see you tonight. Dean Mullis, hey, what's up, man? Hello from North Carolina in the house. and a wrap here. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, man. But it says we use swamp cooler floats and 1/4-inch lines to fill up 5-gallon buckets for reservoirs for livestock. Swamp cooler floats and 1/4-inch lines to fill up 5. Yeah, that's cool, man. What kind of livestock are you talking about? There's all different sorts of creative ways people have come up with to manage their livestock, to do things on their property. I mean, it's amazing to be able to see what some people have come up with. And I don't profess to have like the most efficient systems. I probably work more than I need to. If I spent more time developing systems that were a little more automated, it would be more to my liking. But then that's work on the front end that I'm not necessarily always willing to commit to. But it's definitely something worth considering, especially as people wind up getting older, right? As people wind up getting older, there's more stuff that people have to like do, and you may not want to do nearly as much. Hey, what's up, Skanes girl? Right on. Good to see you tonight. Love it. Yeah, that was something that, again, I saw my dad do, and I decided that maybe I could learn some things from my dad, and that was something that I took from him that I realized I don't necessarily want to do that. You know, I respected the man, I admired him, I loved him, but there was things that he did that I learned, and I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work till I'm dead. So if you can set things up in a way that's easier for you to take less off your plate, I think it speaks, volumes to making you be happier. And again, playing into that freedom theme, it makes you freer. You're not as just overly committed. Oh, I can't do this because I've got to feed my chickens, or I've got to water my roses. Yeah, I don't know if that's so much freedom. If it is to you, then that's cool. But I'm just saying there's other ways to water your roses and feed your chickens that can make life easier on you. So that's all I really have to say on that. Let's see here. Rabbits, quail, chickens, turkeys, goats, sheep, and pigs. We've done a similar setup to keep buckets and troughs filled. Yeah, right on. Yeah, somewhat smaller livestock. Those, when you start getting into the sheep and pigs and stuff, a little bit more consumption. But like cows, man, they can drink 30, 40, 50 gallons a day if it's hot, depending on the size of the animal. So just a different scenario. But hey, glad to see so many folks in the chat tonight, in the live. It's awesome. Again, it may be a short night tonight. I hadn't really planned on coming on, but there was something I wanted to kind of address from a recent past. And what it's pertaining to is the whole homesteading is not harmful content demonetization issue that I was dealing with. And kind of funny, man, because I don't know, like computers, man, AI, right? That's a big topic these days, artificial intelligence, AI. And make no mistake about it, it's going to be a huge issue moving forward, despite what people may think or think not about it. It's going to be like ever present and not going away. But let me read you this email that I got. And this is from YouTube Partner Support. And this was, now mind you, I was dealing with this issue back in like January and February and into March. And I think it's now been about 2 months since I got the channel monetized. And so the issue basically went away. It was like gone. And for those that don't know, it wasn't that the channel was demonetized. It's just that once I met the threshold for monetization, they were like, yeah, you got harmful content on your channel and we're not going to tell you what it is. You have to figure it out. And so I was very persistent and tried to be pretty respectful until things started to kind of piss me off. And I started getting a lot more direct and pointed and asking the person, let me do this, air quotes, right? Person. The person I was dealing with in YouTube creator support. And I'm firmly in the belief that it's a artificially, whatever, it's a computer that's responding to me. And this email basically confirms that to me, because this is now just 4 days ago, I get this email out of the blue after we've been monetized for like 2 months. And I'll read it to you here shortly. It says, "Hi there. I hope you are doing fine. My sincere apologies for the delay in the response. This is an isolated situation. I understand that you asked for a supervisor due to the demonetization of your channel. This is Ed, the supervisor on duty on behalf of Mariel. For sure, this is a very important matter. I'll be glad to further guide you. Once again, my apologies for the inconveniences. First, I want to highlight that the resolution provided is correct and accurate. For sure, I understand that this is not the resolution nor details you were expecting. However, as per our internal processes, we may only disclose the necessary information to our content creators." Okay. "Since every single scenario is different and unique." That makes no sense. I guess I'm not a content creator that they're, I don't understand what they're talking about. Anyhow, secondly, the safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority. We look to each of you to help us protect this unique and vibrant community. It's important to understand our community guidelines and the role they play in our shared responsibility to keep YouTube safe. We are always aiming for excellence, and your comments and feedback are a very important part of our success. Feel free to share your ideas and insights at the following link. We value this information. I know the resolution is not the one you were looking for. I hope the above information is useful for you. All the best. Edwin J., Google support team. So, man, I don't know. I mean, that's just like, to me, it just shows the inefficiencies in their system to this point, where they're going to respond to something that's been resolved, but say that there's no resolution. I don't know. It's one of those things that confirms to me, because I've had several dealings with interactions like this, where it is something that is computer generated, called artificial intelligence, if you will. But it's something that is going to be a significant issue in the future. I was actually planning on talking about this a little bit more in detail, maybe at a later time, but I don't know. I thought I'd bring it up now because, my son and I were talking just the other day, and I had asked him, he's a firefighter by trade, and I asked him, "Hey, do you think that like AI is going to start replacing, people in the fire service, and how's it going to affect firefighting and this and that?" And he didn't really think that it was necessarily going to be an issue, because government is in the business of growing government, and that's true to a large extent. So they're not going to be as quick to adopt something like AI, as maybe other private sector industries. But, again, I think that it's only an inevitability that a lot of the positions that exist in, even in a profession like firefighting, are going to be on the chopping block, because there's a lot of support functions and administrative staff that's their jobs could easily be replaced by a computer. It's just clear. It's clear to me. If you don't have to pay for a benefit package as an employer, as a government or private industry, if you don't have to pay for a government, employee benefit package, if you don't have to have an HR department to deal with more personnel issues, right? And you don't have to pay retirement to a freaking computer. You don't have pensions to it's only a matter of time. And so I would ask anybody who's currently employed, look within your own industry, look within your own job, and think toward the future, because the speed at which things are moving are overwhelming, to be quite honest. I think we've all seen in recent years things just become accelerated, and all of the things that the folks, the powers that be, if you will, the people that are pulling the strings behind the scenes, have said a lot of it has come true. In fact, most of it has come true. They said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Boom, guess what? It's coming. So I think we live in a very, very unique time in history, because we can see with greater clarity than any generation before us what lays on the horizon, if you're just willing to open your eyes and listen to what they're saying and to watch what's happened in the past. You know, it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. I don't think that the blacksmith of 1909 or 1910 thought the old horseless carriage. I bet they didn't see that coming. I bet they didn't see the Model A. I bet they never even thought, oh, that's going to replace my job. Yeah, what my grandpa did and his grandpa did, that's an industry that'll be around forever. But I think nowadays it's much easier to see what's on the horizon because of technology and the proof that has shown itself to be true. A couple of years ago, they were talking about this CBDC thing, right? Nobody had even heard about it. And those that didn't want to think about it, they thought it was a conspiracy. Oh, whatever, man. That's like crazy talk. What's rolling out here? Pretty soon, this Fed Now thing. So all of that stuff that they've said is coming. And it's just an interesting thing. And I can only imagine how things are going to be in the future as they get some of these glitches in the technology ironed out. Things that we thought we would never see in our lifetimes. It's happening. And it's going to happen at even faster, I think, as they get it more perfected. So, yeah, I thought that was an interesting email. Let me get caught up in the chat here. Yeah. Food Plant Bonneville, Food Plant Nursery Brookville. Welcome to the chat. Big B. Let's see, battery powered host timers. Yeah, that's a good thing to have. I like that idea a lot. And that can do a lot for you when you want to just leave. If you've got spots that, you want watered, or maybe even in a water trough or something, those things are gold. I use a lot of those mechanical timers, but again, that requires somebody to be here and flick the dial, right? And I might switch over to a few of those battery hose timers. I've used them before, and they're a little bit more expensive and stuff. But they are, I think, in my opinion, a better option and a better solution, because it just takes the human element a little bit more out of it. Let's see here. A lot of hand feeding for rabbits, but goats are hand of just stock tank water. Okay. So it says the chickens have a couple of those 5-gallon buckets with the holes, with 3-inch hole feeders drilled into them, along with free ranging and maggot buckets as they're automated on food as I can get them. Yeah, that's smart, man. I think that stuff's really smart. Not only finding ways to supplement and to lessen the food costs, lessen the dependency on the feed store. And it's hard to get enough maggots to feed your chicken. But like what I do is I always make sure that I have like gloves in my truck, so that if I come across something that's not too gnarly on the road, like roadkill, I'll stop and grab it, man, and throw that in the old maggot bucket when I come back, and that's free food. So it sounds kind of macabre and gross, and sometimes it kind of is gnarly. Some of that stuff's pretty, like, I just leave it alone. But if it's not too bad, that's what I'll do. I mean, it's only, it's a waste. Well, it's not really a waste because the buzzards are going to get it, and maggots will get it or whatever. But yeah, I like that as an idea, man, for sure. Says Big B says AI is currently generating news articles. Yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't, I mean, I think it's going to be generating a lot. And, the whole strike that they're on right now with the Hollywood folks, and I was looking into that because I saw it on TikTok and I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. So I looked into it a little bit, and I found it to be kind of interesting, only in the sense that they're just the ones that they haven't accepted it yet. See, you think that those scripts aren't going to be written by AI? If your job can be done by a computer, it's going to be done by a computer. I'm sorry. The union's not going to protect you. They're going to try, but when it comes to money, it's what's going to happen. It's the future, man. And I think that if people don't understand that, they will at some point. And it's just one of those things where when you see a problem or you see something's coming, just understand, is it something you can do to change? And if it's not, just accept it and figure out a way to navigate around it. If something's coming at you and it's impenetrable, if it's a force that you cannot change, you can't change that. You can't change the outcome of what's coming in the future as it relates to what's coming from, again, power, the power elite. You just figure out where are your deficiencies, where are your weaknesses, and how can you shore those weaknesses up to the extent that it's not going to matter with what those folks do. So that's where we look at doing some of the things like getting debt free and, building community and establishing something around you that makes sense, figuring a way to, have an exchange with, like-minded people. That's a difficult thing to do. We talk about it a lot, but the reality of us being able to do that is super challenging, yeah, I agree. Encroachment of AI on the workforce is another great reason to diversify skills. Yep. Yeah, 100%. I just, again, I don't think people can see what's coming, but yet they should, because of what we've already seen take place. And that's, I think the biggest takeaway from a lot of that. We do have the ability at this point in history. And again, I think it's a very unique point in history because we can see what it is that's coming. They're telling us exactly what's coming, but yet so many people are dismissive of it and aren't really doing maybe enough to recognize it and to realize the threat that exists. Yeah, what else do we got going on here today? We've been experiencing some pretty high temperatures here on the farm, and I'm sure that most of the rest of you are in harvest season. And yeah, we've been putting away a bunch of stuff, and Rebecca's been going out every day or every other day and harvesting some of the things that I planted. And she's, we've already done our garlic and potatoes and onions, and we've all put that stuff up. But currently now we're working on, the tomatoes are coming due, and the beans. Planted a lot of beans this year, and we're getting a pretty decent amount of yield on those. And yeah, what else do we got? Pickles. She's putting up pickles and some beets and some peppers. So those are the things that are coming into view at this point. But the problem, I guess, for us a little bit is just that with the high temperatures that we've experienced, it has slowed down the production from some of our vegetables, particularly the tomatoes. We're not getting as much new fruit set. We've still got a lot of fruit on the vines that's going to come ripe, but it's not putting on anything new. So hopefully we'll get a reprieve at some point, maybe from some of this heat, and maybe they'll get their second wind before, we get too far into fall or whatever. But yeah, it's been pretty productive thus far. I trust most of you are in the throes of your harvest season, and we've been experiencing temperatures probably over 110. It was like 113 the other day. I think 114 one day. And today feels pretty nice. It was only like 100, so it felt really good. It was like kind of a cool day, in fact, compared to the way it's been. And I know that the animals have certainly appreciated that. And I imagine the crops as well are going to be, happy as well. Let's see here. I used to work in an industrial greenhouse. We automated everything from planting to loading it in the truck was automated. A 13-acre and 22-acre greenhouse was run by 5 people pretty much. Yeah. I think that the businesses that will thrive from a private industry standpoint, now government's a different animal altogether. It doesn't really give a shit about budgets and money and all that. It's very irresponsible. And I can only speak to that because I'm somebody who worked in government for 30 years and I saw the abuse of the tax dollar. Now, I will say that there was an effort in some units to keep things within reason, but for the most part, it's not something that government thinks about. But private industry certainly has to think about efficiencies and ways to cut corners and cut costs so they can make a buck. That's the whole point of it. And so AI is going to be a big part of that. Think about it. Think about all the industries and all the jobs that are analytical, the jobs that are data driven. They're gone, man. You're a CPA, you're an accountant, you're a whatever. You're gone. All those legal assistants that work for attorneys, there's just going to be like one attorney up there doing the thing. It's like in our agency. I started thinking about, wow, man, they could have one person running the entire state as far as from a personnel standpoint if they get this thing nailed. They won't need a personnel or a couple of personnel clerks in each of the 22 units. They won't need a finance person in each of the 20. It'll be one person at a centralized location figuring out how to get that stuff done. So that's where AI is going. And I think that it just behooves people, if you're in a career that may be susceptible to that in some way, figure out ways to navigate around it, because you're not in any way going to stop it. It's definitely here to stay. Hey, what's up, Bruce, man? Good to see you, dude. I'll get that sent off to you here sometime this week. I still haven't done that, but I will. So yeah, thanks for being in the chat, brother. Let's see here. Oh, right on. Getting ready to get your first chickens in about 3 weeks. Nice. What are you getting? You got to let us know, man. What are you getting? Yeah, that's exciting. I got one chicken out there right now. She's got to be getting close. In fact, it was kind of my mistake. I didn't write down when she started sitting on eggs, so I have no idea. I'm like, maybe she's going to have them pretty soon. But she's out there just like, it's hot, man, sweating in this box. And so, yeah, it's exciting. You're getting your first chicks. Yeah, let us know what you're getting, and yeah, looking forward to it. So I guess that's about kind of what I wanted to cover tonight. I didn't really have a lot that was on my mind, really. It's just that when I was out this morning, I kind of thought that that's something that was bouncing around in my head. And yeah, I'll just have to figure out if in fact I'm actually going to commit to that race. I don't know if I'm going to, because again, I don't feel as though I'm in good enough shape. And I don't want to necessarily sign up for something that I feel like I'll fail going in, but I'm going to give it my level best in the next 6 weeks or so to try to train to see if my body will respond in a way that gives me some form of confidence that, hey, maybe I can do this. Because I don't know. Let's see here. I'm getting a Motley Crew. Oh, right on. You're getting the old just whatever, like barnyard blend. Yeah, those are pretty good. I had some barnyard blend eggs that I hatched last year, and I didn't really care for them, to be quite honest. I think it was maybe a couple of different things. It was just genetics, but it was also I think that hatching birds out, and this has just been the experience that I've seen, is that hatching birds out, when you brood them yourself, you have them in a brooder, you feed them every day, they get a little bit more accustomed to that interaction, and they look at you in a way that signals to them, hey, you're not a threat or something to be feared, and they rely on you a little bit more. And so I don't know. It could have been partially genetics, the ones we had last year, or it could have been just that's an issue with them as well. But yeah, we hatched out some barnyard blend last year. Solar powered chicken doors. Yeah, I've seen those. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube that people have made, some pretty cool contraptions and stuff like that. Yeah, again, that's something that's probably cool, but I don't mind going out in the morning and just open a door. In fact, what I've been doing right now is I'm keeping my birds up until they lay for the most part, because I really want to assess their performance. I want to see, are some of my older birds starting to slow down, so I can make an assessment for replacement, in other words. So I don't like just having animals that I'm feeding and they're not really producing a yield. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm not just like having it automatically open or whatever, but that's a really good idea. It's one of those automations that makes your life a little bit easier, because we do have to go out at night. Oh, we still got to put the chickens up, right? You got to go out there and, close the thing, and, you'd rather just be kicking it. So that would be super cool. It may be something that I look at doing in the future, just to play around with. But right now we have 3 different coops where the birds are at. And so, I like doing it that way right now at this point, just because it doesn't put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. I'm not going to get wiped out in one night by a fox or a coyote or raccoon or something. Let's see here. Let's see. I have a fellow freesteader in Texas that is giving me the chickens. Struggling to get the old shed turned into a coop that will protect them from predators here. Yeah. That's a good feeling when you can get your birds in a secure coop, because I know a lot of people get coops and they don't have floors on them, which is fine for a while. But what that winds up becoming is it becomes like a normalcy bias. Oh, nothing's happened in the last 6 months. Oh, we've had our chickens for a year like that and nothing's ever happened. And then guess what? One day there's feathers everywhere. So having a bottom on your coop, man, in my opinion, is like imperative, because predators will find a way to get into that coop. And I did a video on, coop security and stuff like that maybe about a month and a half ago or something like that. And I talked about how it is that I manage our coops and the things that I think about. But I think that coop security is one of the things that you as a livestock owner have a specific responsibility for, because it's not really that cool to lock an animal in a cage and then basically like allow stuff to get in to get them when they're most vulnerable. Chickens are like out of it, man. In the middle of the night when it's bedtime, you can do anything to a chicken. Like walk in there and they're just like looking at you like, what's going on? They have no idea what's happening because they're asleep. And we have an obligation. So I make sure you get that coop dialed in, Gaines girl. I know you will. Bruce. Yeah, automation of the farm chores is defeating the purpose of enjoying the country. Yeah, to some extent, you're right, man. But there's some things I could just do without, or just know that, hey, if I wanted to flip a switch so I could leave for the weekend, guess what? I can flip a switch and feel comfortable that things are going to be handled. So, yeah, let's see here. What did I miss, man? Let's see here. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get caught up here. It says, I had one hatch some eggs out. Never knew what barred rock and Easter eggers would look like. Kind of ugly, but different. Yeah, I think all chickens are kind of ugly, man. I mean, if you want to get right down to it, they're kind of a gnarly looking creature, no matter what. But yeah, they're fun. They are a fun animal. They're pretty fun. Let's see here. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for stopping in. Wrap here. Hey, what's up? How you doing, Jason? Good to see you tonight, man. I'm just about ready to probably pop off here tonight. I kind of went on a rant earlier, and you might have to catch the replay to see any of that. But yeah, I appreciate you coming into the live tonight. And maybe next time Rebecca will be in the live with me and we can have a conversation with you. Next week, I will be having the Canny couple on, and they are a couple that is first generation homesteaders that I'm invited to come on, and we're going to chat and see what they've got going on their homestead. I'm always interested in learning about new people and learning what they're doing on their homestead. So I look forward to being able to have a conversation with them next week. And then I've got some cool dudes lined up for the following week beyond that. So yeah, that's about it, guys. If there's no more questions, I think I'm going to hop off and yeah, talk to you guys next week. But thanks, everyone. And go out and try to be better tomorrow than you were today. And remember, homesteading is not harmful content. Later, guys.